and welcome to the Chicago Board of Elections regular board meeting of September 22nd, 2020. If at any time during this call you need assistance, please press *0 for the operator. This call is being recorded. I would now like to turn the conference over to Marisel Hernandez, Chair of the Chicago Board of Elections. Please go ahead.
Thank you. We will call to order the regular board meeting of the Chicago Board of Election Commissioners. Good morning. My name is Marisel Hernandez. I'm the chair. And with me is William Kresse, Commissioner. Commissioner Kresse?
I am present.
And Commissioner Jonathan Swain.
Present.
Next item on the agenda is the consideration of the agenda. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda? If not, we will proceed with the approval of the regular board meeting minutes of April 28, 2020. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved, Commissioner Swain.
Is there a second?
Second, Commissioner Kresse.
It's been properly motioned and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Swain votes aye. Commissioner Kresse votes aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item is the Executive Director's report. Mr. Goff.
Thank you, Madam Chair, board members. As you know, today is National Voter Registration Day, and it's also 41 days prior to the date of the election. Just give a report on some of the items taking place at our office or have taken place. On the 16th of this month, I met with DoIT, and they reported on our information security risk assessment, and they gave us a green light. They say everything looks good. We have additional funding for additional items that we need to put in place for our cyber risk assessment, and we will be working on that shortly, hopefully. Number two, I got a phone call this weekend. I was working with at the office, and I got a phone call from the director of the Federal Voting Assistance Program. David, he said, Lance, I have a lady that I've been talking to. She was up in age, and she was having trouble. She's in Canada, and she's lived in Chicago, and she's voting from Canada as under the Federal Voting Assistance Program. And she was having trouble. And I got the information. I gave it to Sandra Spera. Her and Betty Horton were able to take care of the problem within a half hour. Sandra Spera was working with the UOCAVA, military and overseas voting, and the 45-day report, we sent out 5,823 ballots, which I'm very proud, and they're doing a great job. Sunday I came in, and Betty Horton was talking to her, she calls her people that are overseas that she's in contact with. And I've gotten reports back that people said she's so nice, and so nice to talk to somebody back in the States. So I wanted to report on that. Number three, to let the board members know that on this Thursday, the 24th, we will be dropping 245,000 approximately vote by mail ballots. So they will hit in the mail system on this Thursday. So I wanted the board members to be aware of that. Second of all, our printer that are working on our ballots, they're doing an unbelievable job. In fact, we have several people. We had to bring another crew of people up to proofread the ballots when they came off the presses because they're cranking them out so fast. Hopefully, we should be finished with ballot printing by the end of this week. I've already discussed. I sent pictures to the board members of the drop box. You saw that, I hope.
Yes, those look really good.
Okay. That's going well. We did have an issue with the Secretary of State sent out a letter, and they jumped the gun, and we got a lot of phone calls about our people not applying, which have applied for ballot. We hopefully have gotten that taken care of. We sent an email out to all those people that requested a ballot and let them know. And our phones, Charles, have they all basically stopped on that question? Would you say? They've slowed down. Okay, sounds good.
And it was a good email. I received it on Saturday. Thank you.
Yes, they all went out, and it worked out well. The CARES Act, we're going to talk about that later. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Lance, on the Secretary of State letters, now they're sending out another round on October 15th, is that correct, under the law?
Yes.
Okay, hopefully they'll be a little better this time.
We're working with the Secretary, we've already contacted the Secretary of State's office, so we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
The CARES grant budget, I'm not going to discuss that. I'm going to save that so when Adam talks about the agreement with the Cook County. So I'll save that for that. And the last one that I have to report is we had a meeting with the Sheriff's Department talking about Cook County Department of Corrections. We are going to do voting out at the jail. The days that we're going to use will be Saturday, October 17th, Sunday, October 18th, and Saturday, October 24th, and Sunday, October 25th. We'll be using 4 locations at the jail. Division 11, Division 10, Division 3, their annex, and Division 5, the chapel. So we're all basically in place. Clint has done an excellent job setting this with the Sheriff's Department, and I feel that everything looks very good. I couldn't be any prouder of the staff, the work that they have done for this upcoming election. Basically, that's all I have for my board members. I wanted to be brief. I'm here for any questions.
Okay, then if there, oh.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so a few questions, Lance.
Can you speak a little louder? That you're fading in and out.
Sure, is that better? Is that better?
Yes.
I think so.
Okay, great. Okay, so a few questions, Lance. First question. I want to revisit this question I asked at the last board meeting with respect to email and responses to vote by mail being picked up. I'm sorry, not vote by mail being picked up, but the drop boxes being emptied, being processed, and the voter receiving the email. Can you speak to where we are with that?
We're still working on those processes right now, Commissioner. At the next meeting, we'll have something in writing, but we're still looking at some other items that we need to work on.
Okay, so with respect to that, one thought based on what you described earlier in the meeting around people and desiring to use their use the drop boxes versus using the mail, and the process it's going to take. Let me back up. I'm most concerned about making sure that people feel comfortable that when they drop off their ballot in the mailbox, that they get it tracked as soon as possible. Meaning once it gets picked up, it gets processed, and the email goes out, preferably within 24 hours. That's my preference. So my question to you is...
Well, okay. I was going to answer that. That every night, those ballots will be picked up from the drop boxes.
Okay. No, I got that. That's not my state law. That's not my question. My question is based on the volume of the ballots that will be being picked up in the drop box, do we believe that we'll be able to turn around that within 24 hours? Because if a ballot gets picked up at, say 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, depending on the cycle how it gets picked up out of the drop box. Are we going to be able to do that, or is there going to be a need to do some intermediary, especially towards the end of the cycle? Will there be a need for us to maybe pick up in the middle of the day to make sure that that email gets sent out or tracked within 24 hours?
Commissioner, we're setting up to, we're going to be working 2 shifts. So we will be processing those ballots. When they're picked up at night, they'll be brought to the office here, and they'll be run through, and we'll be able to get that email out within the 24 hours.
Okay, so you don't foresee a need to have to do an earlier pickup. Go ahead, Adam.
No, I do not.
Yeah, this is Adam, Commissioner. I just want to make sure you understand that this first pass through the Agilist machine is an automated system where the Agilist is reading the barcode as to which voter's envelope we just received, and that will then automatically start the process of that voter receiving the email confirming that that their status has gone to received, that we received their ballot. So we are optimistic that with the double shifts going and the automated system, we'll be able to keep on top.
Okay, I'm just putting something out here because I know how Herbies are. So Herbies meaning from the book The Gold. I understand how they are. So that's my first question. My second question is, where are we in terms of the question of attorneys for the election day supervisor?
I'm still working on that right now. I need another week and a half, 2 weeks to do that.
Okay, I'll revisit it at our next meeting.
Any further questions? If not, I'd like to hear from Mr. Holliday, our Assistant Executive Director.
Hold on, I'm moving right now. Charles can sit in the hot seat.
Oh, okay.
Good morning, Madam Chair, fellow commissioners.
Good morning.
Morning. So with our judges, we have 9,497 active and assigned. That's 1,419 party judges, 6,290 over the counter, 1,097 high school judges, 350 college, and 340 language judges. There are 6,293 pending and waiting to be processed and assigned. I believe Joan Agnew is in court today to get confirmation for the judges. Presently, we have 1,638 active and assigned election coordinators. That includes standbys. And we have another 807 election coordinators to be assigned once the online training is completed. And that online training video will go active on October 1st. Our early voting personnel, we have 178 confirmed for Margie's election. We have another 400 new applications for early voting personnel. As Lance stated, on the 24th, we'll be mailing out our first 245,000 vote-by-mail ballots, and there will be a drop box secured under video surveillance and 24-hour guard watch here at 69 West Washington. Again, our early voting site will open October the 1st with a drop box there, and then on October the 14th, the early voting sites throughout the city will be open with the drop box as well. Presently in the House, there's between online and in-house registrations, there's 4,000 registrations to be processed by the registration department. So ends my report at this point.
Charles, do you know for this election how many new registrations we've gotten thus far?
Not at the moment, but I could get a total and have it sent to yourself and the other 2 commissioners.
Okay.
But that number is a large number because the online has really picked up. We start with maybe 3,000, and then the next morning we're up to 7. But the staff, they're constantly working in bringing that number down, because a lot of those registrations, as they re-register or change their address, they're also requesting a vote-by-mail ballot, and which is being handled very well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Charles,
Any questions?
Yeah, one question for Commissioner Swain. Charles, you went through a bunch of dates about the drop-off boxes. Can you go through those again a little slower? I missed them.
All right, so our first drop box will be in place tomorrow, right here at 69 West Washington, which is September the 24th, which is the first date we start mailing out the vote by mail ballots. October 1st, our super site opens, where there will be a drop box there as well. And then on October 14th, when the citywide early voting sites open, there will be drop boxes at those sites as well.
So I just want to clarify something. Between September 24th and October 14th, there's only going to be 2 locations, both of them downtown?
Yes, with drop boxes, correct. We're working on a list of the libraries where we will have drop boxes that you should receive that very soon. Clint and myself, we're going through that now to assign drop boxes for the libraries.
And when do we anticipate those drop boxes in the libraries being installed or open?
Just as soon as our list is final, we'll have those delivered and put in place.
So we're looking like what, by October 1st?
Yes, Clint and I were talking after this meeting. Hopefully by the end of the week, we will have that nailed down and possibly putting those drop boxes in place.
Okay, because my concern is, and I appreciate that you're working expeditiously on that. My concern, I think I've voiced this previously, is that we're mailing out ballots to folks on the 24th and the 25th and so forth. And that for folks that do not want to use the mail, the only option up to this point, till we got the libraries, was coming downtown to make the drop. Otherwise, they'd have to hold it till the early voting sites open. So we need to make sure that we have those libraries in place ASAP, so folks who will get their ballots can turn them in, as soon as they get them, in someplace close to their neighborhood.
Yeah, and that's what we're working on, Commissioner. And by Thursday, we should have a report to you on where those libraries are going to be, where those drop boxes are going to be placed at what libraries.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Charles.
Charles, Commissioner Kresse here.
Yes, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, sir. How are you?
I'm great.
Great. Of the drop boxes, how many of them are going to be outside, and how many of them are going to be accessible 24/7?
Well, at this point, there's only going to be one outside that's 24-hour accessible, and that's in front of 69 West Washington.
Okay, that's good. Now, is that going to be located so someone can drive up to it, or does someone still have to get out of their car to access it?
Commissioner, they will have to get out of their car because of the CTA construction that's in front of our building. It's pretty it's sore to the eyes, but that new construction there, they will have to get out of their car to come up to the box and drop it in the box.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we'll proceed with communications. Who is speaking on behalf of Kivvit?
Hello, Eric Fedler is here.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll just go ahead then. So we've provided a series of documents that hopefully people have had a chance to look at. I will just highlight some of the most critical work. First of all, we developed a campaign plan that has critical work activity and dates that we are following and implementing. The next thing that I would point out is that we've created a Stakeholder Toolkit, which again has been provided to the board and to the staff that we're working with. this toolkit is being distributed to 150 community-based organizations across the city. We've already had direct communication and confirmation with about 30 of them, and we're working to accelerate the outreach to the remaining organizations. And this toolkit gives them a whole suite of content that they can use to communicate to their stakeholders and their constituents. We're going to continue to build that out and to develop it in the weeks ahead, but everybody has a core toolkit to work from already. And of course, those toolkits are going to be translated into Spanish as well. On the media relations front, we, between the last time we talked and today, initiated 8 proactive media contacts that we've arranged interviews for. We've also managed about 20 inbound media contacts that we managed. And then the other pieces of information, the content material that have been shared are really primarily the digital media communications. There are social graphics and copy that we've created for National Black Voter Day, and we're developing additional content that will be used and distributed through the board's social media platforms. Those are, I mean, there's additional things, but those are really the main things that I would direct the board's attention to, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And again, hopefully everybody's had a chance to see and review, all the material.
Any questions? Well, Mr. Sedler, I do have a couple of questions, and one is, today is National Voter Registration Day, and I was just wondering what do you have for us for today?
Well, we are doing a couple of different things, and I mean, number one, we're doing, we have a full social media plan that we're implementing. We're also doing outreach to local media to try to set up interviews. We have promoted graphics for social media that are being distributed to, all of the different stakeholders. So, it's social media, earned media, and materials for stakeholder groups.
One of the questions that on the board that we've had, one of the primary concerns is reaching out to the underserved communities in the city of Chicago, and specifically those who don't have internet access or emails. And what's your plan, and what have you done to identify and do outreach to those individuals?
Well, the primary work that we're doing is working through the 150 community-based organizations. We are, we've provided this toolkit, which again, I hope that people have had a chance to look at. So, we've distributed this to these community-based organizations. We're working with them, counseling them in terms of how to distribute those to their constituents. That's, I would say, the most kind of grassroots engagement that is happening, and we know that through their network that there's the ability to reach thousands of people. Secondly, the earned media is, I think, a very important part of this. We are targeting very, very local, community-based, hyper-local media, and those are really the primary tools. I would say that our experience is that really virtually all demographic groups have mobile phones, and do get information through mobile technology, and so we do think that there's still value in doing social and digital communication as a component of that. But again, it's really primarily working with the 150 community-based organizations, earned media, and very, very targeted digital communication.
Eric, Commissioner Swain here, just a follow-up question. With respect to, specifically voter registration day and these outreaches, how do you measure effectiveness to be able to make these tweaks and strategies that's not being effective?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I had a hard time hearing that.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay. I must need to get some new earbuds or something. I put once more of my money. Anyway, my question to you is, in light of voter registration day and being nimble on this, and just generally your outreach through community organizations, how do you measure effectiveness to make sure that the strategy that we're implementing actually is doing what we're asking, doing what we needed to do?
Well, at this phase of the campaign, the way that I would measure it is the engagement with the community-based organizations. Again, just in a relatively short amount of time, we got very, very positive response from most of the major community organizations, and very, very strong engagement there. I think the second piece of that is going to be working with them to see how aggressively they're distributing information, the kind of information that they're requesting, which again, we're going to be providing all of that to them. So I think that, that's certainly one piece of it. The second piece of it is seeing the engagement on social media, seeing the click-throughs and the how people are engaging with the content. Ultimately, obviously, we want to see the results in terms of, the people's actions around voting. But I think in this phase, over the next couple of weeks here, it's really going to be the engagement that we're getting with the community organizations and the engagement that we're getting with the social media content.
Great, thank you very much.
Mr. Settler, Commissioner Kresse here. You keep talking about your 150 community-based organizations. Have any of these organizations, or do you know which ones, have, say, endorsed any candidates who'll be on the ballots or taken a position on any referenda issue?
I don't know those organizations. I don't know the answer to that specifically. But these are all nonprofit organizations that are certainly qualified to be communicating to constituents about election information, voting information.
Okay, but you haven't asked any of them if they've taken any positions on any issue that'll be on the ballot?
Commissioner Kresse, I do think that as a 501c3, at least for the 501c3s, they're prohibited from doing that. I just don't know how many of those 150 community organizations are 501c3s.
I understand that restriction in the tax code. So this being National Voter Registration Day, are you saying we should be news coverage on that?
Yeah, I believe that we will see news coverage about it. We are, working with probably a dozen of the, major media outlets, and I'm confident that we will see news coverage.
Thank you.
Mr. Settler, aside from the 150 community organizations, I think you said that you've been in contact, or Kivvit has been in contact with 30 of them, and What is your plan to increase this? Because I think there has to be a dramatic increase.
Right. Well, just to be clear, we've been in touch with all of them. So far we have 30 that have committed, that have made commitments that they're going to be distributing the toolkit. And so, we're going to be following up with the remaining organizations, every day in order to get those commitments up. But, I would say that, and again, I think people can look at the list of the initial group that have committed. These are leading, very, very reputable organizations. And so, we certainly agree that we want to get the total number higher. But again, I think if people look at the commitments that we have so far, we have commitments from many of the absolute leading organizations.
And one other question, aside from the 150 community organizations, are there other groups you're doing outreach to? And again, in terms of the underserved communities, focusing on those communities that may not have internet or phones.
Well, again, I think if we look at the organizations that we're talking about, that we have listed here under Stakeholder Outreach, the vast majority of these organizations are representing, African American and Latinx communities. So I would suggest that those are, critical organizations for us to be working with. But beyond that, we are, also doing outreach to local aldermen. And so I do think, again, if people look at these organizations supplemented by local elected officials, that we are doing outreach to all the appropriate organizations. But I would also, ask for any commissioner or staff, as you look at these organizations, if there are others that you think should be included, obviously we would welcome that. But I would say I think we're working with a very comprehensive list here.
Eric, let me just say one of the Commissioner Swain again. Can you read forward the list? I'm in email overload this week, and so I'm not finding the list again. So if you can just read forward the list of the community organizations. I know I saw it, but if you can read forward it so we can take a look at that. Somebody provide counsel on that would be great. Secondly, I as you develop your evergreen pieces, posters or what have you, I always recommend, again, we did a mailing out to barbershops and beauty supplies, not beauty supplies, and beauty shops at one point in time, and that would seem to be very effective because I drove around the city seeing those signs in the windows of those stores, of those businesses. So that might be another another means to be able to reach people who may not have that direct access to the internet. So just want to encourage that again. I thought it was very effective last time that we did it.
Thank you, Commissioner. We will do both those things.
And then the other thing is, Mr. Sedler, I know you've been focusing on the community organizations, but have you brainstormed to figure out if there are any other types of groups that we could reach out to? I mean, the one that automatically pops up in my mind are churches and religious organizations who have a lot of parishioners and can get the word out. Have you looked into that?
We are. In fact, we're including a lot of the major churches in the 150 community organizations. I do want to point out that, of just the ones that have committed already, St. Sabina's committed, the original Providence Baptist Church is committed, the Lyondale First Baptist Church is committed. So, there are, the Bright Star Church is committed. So, there are a number of major churches that have already committed in our first, group of the 30 commitments that we have so far. And again, we are, I fully expect that, that those list of commitments are going to increase.
And when do you expect to have these commitments, additional commitments by community organizations? What's the goal here? Because as I've said before, every day is a valuable day. We have 41 days, I think, right now left. And early voting will start October 1st. And mail-in, vote by mail ballot applications, we'd like people to apply for them today. So what is your deadline?
Well, we're doing this outreach every single day. So, we're contacting these organizations every day, and the commitments we expect are going to increase every day. So it's not, I don't want to suggest that it's happening in like set increments. It's happening every single day. We're at 30 now. But, I expect by, in the days ahead, that number is going to just continue to increase, as the outreach happens. So it's happening every single day.
Okay, how many people do you have reaching out to these organizations?
I would say we have probably 4 or 5 people that are making every day.
Okay, well, I think it would be good to having possibly a daily update on the new community organizations that we receive commitments from, because this is so critical. We can't we'll be waiting a couple of weeks to get all of these commitments. We need to do it right now. So if we can get that would be great.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. Again, I know we've been providing, a variety of different materials for you, for the staff. So we can certainly, increase the frequency of the reporting on that, and we're happy to do that.
Are there any further questions?
Mm-hmm. Yes, Commissioner Kresse here. Just echoing my fellow commissioners, if you could send us that list of 150 groups along with the ones that have committed, and then you also said there are others outside the 150 which you've made contact with. If you could send that, because all 3 commissioners, we sort of all have our own networks that interlace the city, and so maybe we could either add to the list or help getting a few of that 150 onto the committed list. So I have not seen the entire list. I've seen a few names on a previous document that was sent out, but if you could circulate that to all the commissioners, I think we'd all be grateful.
Okay, we'll certainly do that.
Commissioner Swain, Commissioner Kresse, do you have any other questions at this time? If not, we'll proceed with strategic plan. Is there a question? Okay. If not, we'll proceed with strategic planning. Mr. Allen?
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Since the last meeting, we've completed the updates on the vote by mail video to incorporate the drop boxes and the questions we discussed at the last meeting on vote by mail voters who change their mind and want to vote in person, and how voters should handle the question of, attempting to vote more than once. Obviously, the answer is no. We also completed the updated and uploads of the revised election judge reference videos, so that they include an explanation that there's going to be PPE available, and it details briefly of what those items will be. Legal notices Today, we ran the pre-election logic and accuracy testing or public test legal notice, and also a judge of election, the vacancy list slash beginning of the confirmation process. Next up will be the early voting legal notice. We provided preparations for the chair and the executive director and the general counsel meeting with City Hall. Worked with the purchasing agent, Opal Walls, and Finance Director Peter Pesho on submitting the grant application on behalf of the board. With the Center for Civic Life and Tech, we'll be awaiting the results of that. Hopefully we can get, that's to secure more financing for both potential hazard duty pay for judges as well as other expenses related to conducting the election in the pandemic. We've continued to update the Office of Emergency Management and Communications, a key milestone. Thank you, Madam Chair and Lance and Clint and Charles on nailing down the early voting sites, which in turn are the Dropbox sites for the list that is going out with the vote by mail packet. Of note, we included a link so that as we update the Dropbox sites to add additional sites, whether they're libraries or a stadium, people can go to chicagoelections.gov/Dropbox, and we'll be promoting that with Kivvit so that they can get the very latest list. But at a minimum, we were able to make sure that we had one in each ward for the mailing. Simultaneously, we've developed the shell for the household mailing, which would go out in mid-October. That would include the polling places for Election Day, as well as the other options for voting. We finished all work related to gathering and posting the Dropbox information on the website. I've been involved in the production meetings for Vote by Mail, then participated in the production on the UOCAVA. As Lance mentioned, we had some follow-up emails to our UOCAVA voters on Saturday. I've served as the lead guest speaker at meetings with Chicago Women Taking Action, with Jackie Grimshaw, the Independent Voters of Illinois Independent Precinct Organization, IVI-IPO, and with the Chairwoman on a Facebook Live session with Sigma Gamma Rho sorority and Iota Phi Theta fraternity. We've got more such outreach sessions this week. Last week, as Mr. Goff referenced, the letters from the state went out. They were reminder letters, and we were inundated with calls and emails. We not only prepared the responses, but we did our best to take that and turn it into a positive. Chairwoman referenced the emails that went out Saturday. We included in that email the link to the new How to Vote by Mail video, which had the Dropbox reference to it. And also we made changes on the home page and the Vote by Mail page and the Contact Us page, the three places that voters were going most often to, so that we had a link very prominent on each one, on the home, Vote by Mail, and Contact page, so that people could check their Vote by Mail status. So that puts us in a good position if there are similar issues that come with the state mailing plan for October 15. And lastly, we've worked very closely with Kivvit on a variety of projects, including handing off the partnerships we had in place with sports teams, Chicago Cares, Chicago Greater Chicago Food Depository, and then a variety of media calls and providing preliminary draft responses, as well as helping with follow-up questions. And so we've been working very closely, especially with Rachel at Kivvit. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Well, thank you, Mr. Allen. We'll proceed with old business. Infrastructure projects and changes in election administration, voting equipment. Mr. Goff, anything new?
Oh, Madam Chair, it's going on. We're right in the thick of it now.
Okay. Electronic poll books?
Nothing new. They're continually updating and preparing the poll books for the upcoming election.
Okay, thank you. And there is no legislation at this time because the legislature is not in session. Is that right, Mr. Lasker?
That is correct, Madam Chair.
Okay. So we'll proceed with new business, and the first item is the authorization for the initiation of litigation for judicial health and safety relief in relation to nursing home voting during the pandemic. Mr. Lasker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sure the board recalls that for the March primary, sort of at the last minute, we were receiving notice from most of our nursing homes that they did not feel comfortable allowing the judges and poll watchers inside for the in-person voting because of coronavirus COVID-19 health concerns for their high-risk population. In the week beginning September 14th, the board staff, under the guidance of Sandra Esfera, contacted all 91 of the nursing homes and long-term care facilities on our list. 89 of those 91 administrators stated that they, again, did not want to allow the outside individuals into their premise for the in-person voting because of these health concerns. So we will again be, while we are now seeking authorization to again go to court and receive judicial relief so that we will flip this over to a robust vote-by-mail system. We'll work directly with the administrators to make sure that all of the residents obtain the proper vote-by-mail applications. We'll deliver ballots there. We'll be able to use secure drop boxes to pick them back up so that those facilities will all be accounted for and have the option of not even needing to use the postal service. We, of course, have the state of Illinois as a defendant. We worked cooperatively with the Attorney General's office on this judicial relief back in March. I would point out that this time the guidelines, the state guidelines from the Illinois Department of Public Health do encourage that voting not happen inside these facilities, so we don't expect any pushback from the Attorney General's office. Again, we've cooperation there. So that is what we're seeking to do. We would file this litigation this week to get in front of the judge as soon as possible.
Are there any questions? If not, is there a motion to authorize our legal counsel to initiate litigation against the state of Illinois to obtain a court order excusing the board from performing regular in-person grace period voting at licensed nursing care facilities?
So moved by Commissioner Kresse.
Is there a second?
Second by Commissioner Swain.
There's probably motions and seconded. All those in favor, state aye.
Commissioner Kresse votes aye.
Commissioner Swain votes aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the interagency agreement with the County of Cook. I'll turn it over to Mr. Lasker as well.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. The board has received the State of Illinois postage grant in an amount up to $1.2 million and a Federal CARES Act grant in the amount of $3.2 million. These are both due to the added vote by mail and COVID-related concerns for this upcoming November election. The problem the board faces is that the State Board of Elections is not releasing those grant funds until after the expenditures are made. We have to seek reimbursement and show basically the transaction receipt. We do not have in our current budget enough money to make these purchases. We need an advance on the money to be reimbursed to the county. So the county has cooperated with us and drafted this interagency agreement that would allow the county to advance us the funds for the postage and advance us the funds for the CARES Act minus any that might be attributable to the city under the CARES Act. And so we really do appreciate the cooperation we've had from the county budget office, the county president's office. We've got a good agreement ready to go. If our board approves this today, then we do expect that the county board would approve it next week, and then we can start making the expenditures that we have not yet been able to make. So that is the request. Thank you.
Are there any questions?
Madam
If
Chair,
not, yes.
could I just
Groff.
make a comment? The cooperation
please.
the cooperation that we received from the county has been unbelievable. So they stepped up front and in fact even advancing money. So I think we're in real good shape.
Great. I'm very happy to hear that, and I wouldn't really expect nothing less from the county. They've always been very cooperative and with us and helped us in any way possible. So thank you, County of Cook. At this time, is there a motion to approve the interagency agreement with Cook County regarding COVID-19 grant funds?
So moved, Commissioner Swain.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Seconded by Commissioner Kresse.
Okay. It's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, state aye.
Commissioner Swain votes aye.
Commissioner Kresse votes aye.
Motion passes, and the interagency agreement is approved by the board. And now, let's see. Do we have a legal report, Mr. Lasker?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. As you know, there's a pending lawsuit involving the Board of Elections as a nominal defendant. It's the Cook County Republican Party versus the state of Illinois and Governor Pritzker as the main defendant. Last week, the judge in that federal court litigation denied the plaintiff's motion for a preliminary injunction, and so this was a challenge to the special legislation that was enacted for the November election, particularly the provisions related to an expansion of vote by mail, the use of drop boxes, and so forth. So the court is not going to issue the injunction there, which does mean we continue to operate as planned under those new statutes. There still is the underlying complaint filed by the party, which was still subject now to further hearings. However, as a part of the court's opinion and order on the preliminary injunction motion, that did find that the plaintiff has shown no likelihood of success on the merits of their complaint. So things are looking good in regards to being able to continue operating under these statutes. We have previously discussed how much a problem it would be to pull the rug out from underneath us and change things at this late hour. That was also a part of the judge's ruling, was that the plaintiff did not file this lawsuit until sometime after, quite a while after the legislation was enacted. The court literally found that the plaintiff caused their own emergency. I would also like to point out that I have a pending request into the State Board of Elections for guidance on polling places in regards to voters who refuse to wear a face mask. This has been an issue that's caused us complications in nailing down sites for early voting and election day precincts. The issue being that the Illinois Department of Public Health issues guidelines that the election authorities are required to follow. Those guidelines expressly prohibit an election authority from stopping a person from entering a polling place. Several of the polling place proprietors we've spoken to, including large governmental and university agencies and so forth, have indicated that they would still like to enforce the governor's executive orders, the mayor's executive orders, and their own internal mask requirements. These buildings, no one is allowed inside without a mask. So the question posed to the state board is, are those building proprietors allowed to enforce the statewide and local mask requirements, so long as it's not the Board of Elections that's enforcing the rule? The theory being that when the voters come to the voting room that's under the control of the Board of Elections, we will comply with the health department guidelines, but we are not in control of the rest of the building. So I'll keep you advised as to whether we get that guidance from the state board. I'm pleased to announce that on Thursday, the 24th of this week, the board's new system for voters with disabilities is going to go live, go online at the same day that the vote by mail ballots are starting to be mailed out. That is the system that would give voters with disabilities, primarily vision disabilities, but others as well, would have the ability to receive an electronic ballot that they mark on their computer in privacy. They have ballot screen readers that allow them to access the ballot without the need for assistance, therefore keeping their secrecy of their vote. They then print out that marked ballot from their computer printer and mail it back into the board. That's under the UOCAVA laws, but we've expanded that. I just wanted to also finally address the election judge situation just a little bit more that Mr. Holliday mentioned earlier. Our legal counsel, Joan Agnew, is in court as we speak for the first round of confirmations. All election judges are confirmed by the circuit court. The staff member in charge of election judges is Polina Mileselik, and I just want to give a shout out to her because we do have almost 9,500 judges on this list for the first round of judicial confirmations. That's the highest number that Joan Agnew has seen in the first round in her history with the board. So what we thought was going to be a tremendous challenge in recruiting election judges has really been going quite well. The absolute minimum amount of judges the board needs to have for 2,069 precincts is 10,345. And as you heard, we're at about 9,500 right now. So there's a lot of good, the outlook is very good, keeping in mind that these judges are all people during this new confirmation period. They've all signed up for this knowing that coronavirus and COVID is out there, as compared to in March when it was a brand new surprise for everyone. So I also tip my hat to those members of the public who are strapping on their boots and stepping up to serve like this. It's really great to see this enthusiasm coming in this pandemic. Basically, what we have left to do is just continue recruiting so that we have a good supply of alternative standby judges for Election Day in case there are last-minute cancellations. But things are looking much better than expected with judges, and that pleases me greatly. So that's my report for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Yes, Commissioner Kresse.
Okay.
Yeah. Adam, for the voters who will be voting at home and who are visually disabled, how do they apply to vote that way, and what's the registration process for that?
We do have information on the website. We are doing outreach with advocacy groups for people with disabilities. The way that they can register for that is either following the instructions through the board's website, or they can call or email our vote by mail department and make that request. The application process is through the same computer system that we use through Dominion for the UOCAVA voters. Those would be military and overseas voters. They are entitled to receive this electronic ballot. Now this program has been expanded to the voters with disabilities. So it's going to be a very similar process to those overseas voters, and it's an electronic process which again allows them to use their screen readers to interface independently with the board.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
Any other questions? If not, we'll proceed with the next items. We have no financial report, but we have public comment, so we will begin with that. And is it Sylvie? Who's on the line?
Operator? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Sorry about that. My line was muted. Your first public comment is from Helene Gabelnick at League of Women Voters of Chicago.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Ms. Gabelnick. How are you? Okay,
Good morning.
Thank you. Yes, we do have the timer. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine, given the situation, and you all are doing an absolutely fabulous job in trying to deal with it as best you can. I have a few questions, although they're really about the same thing. When do you expect that the board will be offering sign-up opportunities for those who want to serve as judges for signature verification or vote-by-mail ballots? There are many members of League who are interested in doing this, and it seems that you're going to need a lot of people. As part of that, is it possible to use the latest signature provided by the Secretary of State database from driver's licenses for comparison rather than the signatures provided when the voter first registered? And that's it.
Okay. Can anyone respond from the board?
I can respond to the second part regarding the signatures.
Respond, and good morning, Ms. Gableman.
Good morning.
We have been working with the two established political parties, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. They are, of course, entitled to have their judges serve on these panels. The panels are required to have Republican and Democratic judges serve. So we are still in the process of nailing down that list, but we have been receiving names, and it's starting to look like we're in good shape right now. I think that it's always a good idea for people to sign up for service as judges. We'll take applications over the counter. What those assignments are going to be at this point would still be up in the air because we do need to give the parties the first stab at filling those rosters. And then in regards to using the latest signature from the Secretary of State's office, I know that you've been hearing that our office, our board, has been providing an opportunity for voters to update their signatures
Yes, I know
through
that.
our system. Yeah. The statute does require that we use the signature that's on file with the Board of Elections. And so, as the board's attorney, I'd have a little concern about using a signature that's not in our files, because that would be a possible violation of that statute. I suppose there could be a way for us to import those signatures, but it just raises a lot of questions about the authentication and the fact that these signatures were not supplied in the voting capacity, but in the driver license capacity. When we do receive applications through those systems, that signature comes to us and becomes a part of our file. So we're just encouraging, let's continue to encourage the voters to update their signatures through our system as much as possible.
I would
As
add,
far as your first, if you apply to be an election judge, the only option there is for the day of election. I don't see any options for people who are interested in serving what is normal hours in terms of verification. Is that going to be changed, or that's really my question?
We'd be happy to receive a list from you of those individuals so that you can identify those individuals for us. And if it starts to look like we're still having vacancies on that list, then we would certainly appreciate having some people to turn to.
Okay, thank you.
I would add that
If I may. Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
I would add one item to Mr. Lasker's response regarding the signatures. We also made sure that the wording on the vote by mail applications allowed for the board to append the voter registration signature clip, to add that latest clip from the voter for use in comparison.
Can you explain that a little better, Mr. Allen? I'm not sure what you mean.
So,
Can you?
As part of the new legislation, we mailed out applications to vote by mail to approximately 900,000 voters. We also had a couple 100,000 who applied online. Those who replied with the paper mail-in form, the language on that form included the allowance for the board to add that signature to their voter registration record for use in October and November.
Okay, great. That's good. And how many vote by mail written applications did we get out of the over 400,000 we now have?
I'm estimating now, but this is a fairly good estimate, that we've probably had about 230,000 online and approximately 166,000 paper forms that came through the mail.
Okay. Good. Okay.
And this is Commissioner.
Oh.
No, it's Commissioner Kresse, and I'm going to use up Ms. Gablenik's time by simply stating, with regards to the signature verification judges, the changes that were made in Illinois Election Code, specifically, if you want the site, it's 10 ILCS 5/B-20 subpart C, states that the judges to do signature verification shall be from the list of election judges submitted by the county parties for this specific purpose, to compare voters' signatures on the certification envelope of the vote by mail ballots. So that is the source of the judges that'll be doing the signature verification on vote by mail. And we're out of time.
Okay, thank you. Sylvie? Who's our next person?
Next public comment is from Claire Tobin at Illinois Ballot. Please go ahead.
Ms. Tobin, good morning.
Oh, good morning. Thank you very much for facilitating the public like this. I know you're all very, very busy. So I was glad to get an update on the total number of vote by mail ballots. One of my other concerns is that needs to be stressed either in the materials that Kivvit is preparing in the communities is to remind people either get your vote by mail ballot in immediately before you lose it, or if you decide to change your mind, that you must bring it in with you to early voting or on election day. I think that's really, really important because I think there's going to be a lot of confusion. People are going to get their ballot and say, okay, I'll do it next week or whatever. And then they're going to change their minds. And so there's going to be a lot of provisional ballots, which I know everybody would like to avoid.
And Ms. Tobin, we've been stressing that, every opportunity we get. Take 24 hours to fill out that ballot and mail it back. And if you don't want to mail it back, here are your options. And we will continue to stress those options.
Okay, wonderful. So the other item then is we've applied to be poll watchers for the verification of the signature. And so we haven't really gotten a response how we're going to be accommodated on that. And I really think that this is going to be important because of the public distrust out there of the system. So having independent civic organizations present, I think, will do a lot to, give you guys more support. So I would like if we could follow up on that. Those were my two comments.
Okay. Can anybody speak to the status of the poll watchers applications?
Madam Chair, this is Adam. I can just say that the poll watcher credentials will be issued, and the poll watchers do have the right to be there, and we're accommodating that, of course, with all necessary PPE and social distancing requirements.
And we will give instructions.
Okay. Thank you. Who is our next speaker?
Next comment comes from Donna Olson at Illinois Ballot. Please go ahead.
Mr. Olson, good morning.
Good morning. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My question is also about the signature verification process. For the mail-in ballots. For the mail-in ballots. I would like to know if any progress has been made on exactly how the room is going to be set up. I think at the last meeting, Adam Lasker said that he and Joan were working on that, if I remember correctly. So I wondered if there was any more information about exactly how the room is going to be set up so that social distancing will be preserved, but that everyone will still be able to see the signatures. And then,
could I answer that, Madam Chair?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. The areas that we're using have not been vacated yet by the existing tenants. As soon as they are, they should be doing that in the next couple of days. We will then start setting it up, and we can put together a floor plan so we can show everybody.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then my next question was about just the scheduling of the verification process and how this is going to work. I know in the past, I remember back in 2015, I had a lot of issues because I never knew day to day when the process would happen. Sometimes it would, sometimes it wouldn't, depending on how many vote by mail ballots came in that day. Eventually that year, Jim Scanlon had someone call me so that I would know if it was going to happen or not. So just the scheduling is an issue that I know is really important to poll watchers. So I guess I want to know when the signature verification is going to begin, obviously sometime after 9/24, and then how poll watchers will be notified of the scheduling so that, and ideally, of course, poll watchers are interested in poll watching for a particular district or ward. They might be looking at a state rep district. So if the vote by mail ballots are going to be, the signature is going to be looked at in some kind of district-oriented way, so that you don't have to, a poll watcher wouldn't have to sit through verification of ballots, signatures from all over the city. If that makes sense.
No, this is Jim. We would not be processing, as Commissioner Swain pointed out, our biggest obligation is to be able to inform voters that we have received their vote by mail ballot, whether by mail or through the drop box, and we, with the anticipation that we'd be doing much larger numbers than ever before. And we're at 406,000. Our previous record was 118,000 vote by mail applications. We need to be able to process those incoming by, in the order that they arrive. We do not have the luxury of being able to do a sort down to a specific district.
The Agilis machine does do some sorting to that effect, though, doesn't it? Some pre-sorting according to location, so that it would be possible to do this to some degree.
Again, our objective is going to be able to inform voters as quickly as possible that A, their ballot return envelope has been received, and B, that their signature has been approved, or C, in the smaller number if there's an issue. We've also printed the ballots so that by ward and precinct ballot style, so that we do not have to do the processing of the ballots by precinct anymore. They're going to be able to be batch, so that ballots that are accepted from the north or south or west sides can be processed together.
Okay, do we know what the scheduling is going to be on a daily basis for when the signature verification is going to happen? Will that be on the schedule?
Yep. 30 seconds.
And will it be every day? Will it be every other day? Do you have any idea of the scheduling?
As of right now, we don't have that schedule. It will be posted on our website when we're doing that.
Okay.
Given the volume, though, I think it's safe to say it's going to happen more often than not.
Right. I just remember 5 years ago, I would be standing there waiting, and I'd wait for an hour and not know whether it was going to happen that day or not, and it was really problematic.
Well, I think 5 years ago we had maybe in the neighborhood of 40,000, 50,000.
Right. It was a very different situation. I understand.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Olson. We will proceed with our next individual who wishes to speak in public comment.
The next comment is from Kia Sandler, a private. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Hi. Good morning. Thank you guys for having us today. Just sort of calling in. I'm somebody who signed up to be a election judge in county, and I heard you guys mention that there should be voting in jail coming up on, I think it was divisions 10, 11, 3, and 5. Just a little curious as to what does that mean for the other divisions? Will there be other dates that will work with different divisions? And I recognize some of this is communication from county. I guess I'm just trying to understand what information do we know for sure right now?
These, the four, as you know, the Department of Corrections is spread out over that area, and this is where the prisoners will be taken to, the pretrial detainees will be taken to these different locations, depending on where they're at.
Oh, I see.
4 locations, and they will be brought in to vote.
Everyone will have an opportunity to vote. It's just a matter of taking them to the one of 4 locations.
Right.
Got it. So it's not that any divisions won't have access.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next person.
Next comment comes from Ashley Mann, who's also private. Please go ahead.
Hi. Yes, I just have a couple questions in regards to the communications strategy with Kivvit. So my first question is, were the first 30 groups instrumental in developing the toolkit? And what was the process in selecting the 30 out of 150 groups that got the first access? How do groups get access to the toolkit? And the final question is, in the toolkit, is there information in regards to voting rights for folks with a criminal record or have been recently released from prison?
Is there Rachel? I think Rachel Lenke from Kivvit is on the line.
Yes, hi, this is Rachel. So we have worked with the board to develop a comprehensive list of stakeholders, and we've reached out to all of those. And so it was the 30 organizations who kind of elected to participate. We're aggressively following up with all of them, but the first 30 were not, selected out of their own right, to receive priority access or first access. The toolkit is a high-level, priority information around how voters can participate, how they can participate in early voting, vote by mail. It is intended to be, for the general public and really hyper-focused and prioritized around those key dates from the board. So it is not customized for, prisoners, for example. I think I answered your questions, but happy to say more.
I also asked, though, if you've recently been released from prison. That also is part of.
And is that addressed in any of the?
Is that in the literature?
Mm-hmm.
That is, those details specific to recently released prisoners is not in our, public toolkit to stakeholders at the moment.
Madam Chair, could I answer that, please?
Yes, please.
We've worked together. It's a lot of community groups together, worked on a pamphlet that when somebody's released from prison, if they've served their time, it tells them how they register to vote, that their rights are returned back to them, and everybody get a pamphlet when they're released.
So you'd have to go to a separate pamphlet then? You wouldn't be able to look at the pamphlet that's being released for everybody? I'm just trying to get clarity here.
No,
This is Commissioner Swain. This is Commissioner Swain. Let me just ask the question, Kivvit. I know there are groups that we're reaching out to that do reach out to the returning citizen population generally. Would it take much to be able to put together some images that we can give to them specifically to make sure they're communicated about those populations?
Yes, so we can absolutely do that. We are, creating specific content specifically around particular awareness days, whether it's registering to vote or applying for vote by mail applications. This is another that, can and should be considered. I know that the board does outreach to these groups specifically, and if that's a priority group that we can make specific collateral around, again, it's an additional prioritized push to particular groups that makes sense. So we have that information, and that is something we could create.
Yeah, I think I'm happy to work with you directly on it to make sure we create something that we do communicate, considering a significant population from the African American community. I think it's something we probably should take a look at. So let's work together on that, because I missed the person's name who was making a comment, but she's the person raising a valid issue that was something we should should discuss, especially the conversation around marijuana and criminal justice reform and things of that nature.
30 seconds.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sylvie, do we have any further public comment?
There are no further comments.
Okay. Thank you. If there are no further comments, Mr. Lester, do we have a need for executive session?
No, not today. Thank you.
Okay. If there is no need for executive session, I will entertain a motion to adjourn until our next regularly scheduled meeting on October the 13th, 2020. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Commissioner Kresse. Okay, seconded by Commissioner Kresse.
Okay. It's been probably moved and seconded. All those in favor state aye.
Commissioner Swain votes aye.
Commissioner Kresse votes aye.
Thank you. Motion passes, and we are now adjourned. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the board meeting of September 22nd, 2020 has adjourned. We thank you for participating, and we ask that you disconnect your lines.